The 2026 Formula One regulations have just undergone their biggest shake-up since the first official renders were revealed of the version 8 technical regs in June. And thankfully, the latest changes made to the now 10th version are for the better. The 26 cars are now some 3 seconds quicker than that of the version 8 regs, and only 2 seconds away from the current gen cars. And just looking visually, you should be able to see why. The cars look far more mature, complex, and ultimately like how a racing car should look. Almost all the key areas of the 26 Formula One car has seen revisions made to them. And this was needed considering the change from an outwash to inwash aero concept. Here's a very quick and basic lesson in the differences between inwash and outwash. Pre-2009 cars utilized the inwash method, while 2009 to 2017 cars used the outwash method. Basically, the difference between the two is where the air that comes off the front wing is directed and how this affects the car following behind. And as I'm sure you've all guessed, inwash was all about guiding the air through the center of the Formula One car, essentially making sure the front wing guides the airflow into the center, through the floor, and to the diffuser and rear wing. Outwash guides the airflow outside and around the front wheel away from the center of the F1 car, hence why we saw such extravagant and complex barge board and front wing designs towards the end of that generation of F1 cars. Now, how does this impact the 26 regulations, you might ask? Well, starting from the front wing, which has seen quite the substantial change, with there now being major additions to the front wing end plates, with basically a new cascade element on the outer side of that end plate. And of course, there's also the loss of that kind of winglet on the issue 8 front wing. Now, you can't see it from this angle, but this angle here gives an even better example of the changes that have undertaken the front wing flaps, the triple element flap here. We no longer have the multiple arrangement of 4 flaps on the front wing. We now have a whole main plane flap right at the bottom, which has to go across the entirety of the front wing, while the top 2 elements can of course be separated since there is a nose cone there. And of course, this is all about making sure that they have the introduction of inwash here with this particular concept for 2026. As you can see, there are no slot gaps anywhere in the end plates on this front wing version across both issue 8 and issue 10. A little bit back, we actually now have quite an interesting change, which is to do with the wheel hubs. And this side-by-side comparison gives quite an interesting look at it. We now have a much more open area, very much akin to how the Formula One wheel drums are like now. And of course, this is going to have an impact on the overall aero in this area as a change. And you'll notice the brake ducts and the brake drums are very much changed as well, and it's going to have quite the impact in getting the airflow moving in and around that region and making sure that the airflow isn't being deflected into an area from which they do not want it in. Again, a huge change on the issue 10 version of the 26 regs is the changing of not only the barge board system on the outer edge of the floor, but of course, as you can see, a dramatic change in the architecture here as well of the front of this floor, with there now being an additional 5 strakes which can be of course used to guide the airflow in and around that region to the most optimum part of the car, which is of course guiding it to the diffuser. And with this change, they've also had to introduce basically a structural integrity pole to make sure the barge boards are not flapping around too much. And of course, with the huge reduction in the issue 8 floor, bringing into issue 10 the new strakes, the also under tray of that floor has been further refined as well. So big changes in this region too. Another huge change is the actual floor itself and the floor edge and strakes, which we can see on the floor from issue 8 to issue 10. There's a huge maturity in this particular region, and it's more akin to what we're used to in the current generation of Formula One cars. So there's a lot more intricacies from which the teams can make use of now. And this is of course all about manipulating the airflow here and guiding it to the rear of the floor, to the most important part of the rear end, which is of course the diffuser region. And this is a major change from issue 8 to issue 10 in terms of the complexity of the diffuser region, and it's going to be the main part from which the increase in lap time has been derived from. So it's always great to have additional. And this is a major change from issue 8 to issue 10 of this regs, particularly with the diffuser. It's going to have a huge impact on the overall lap times, and it's the main area from which the lap time will have been improved upon. Now with issue 8, we had a very simplistic and basic diffuser for the 26th generation of Formula One cars. That has been drastically changed with the now addition of not only diffuser strakes, very much akin to the 2020 run diffusers that we had back in that generation of cycle before the change into the ground effect era, but also now, and this is the even bigger addition to the diffuser, is now there is of course, as you can see, there is a sidewall to the diffuser, and this is the main addition which is going to help bring such a drastic improvement in lap time. And just overall with everything that we've just talked about with these additions to the car, this has all come from the teams themselves basically going back to the FIA and saying we are not happy with the current trajectory that we have seen in terms of the latest forecast that they have with the models in both CFD and the wind tunnel for lap time and just the general wheel-to-wheel racing this will bring to Formula One. And then of course they've had major tweaks to the regulations, and we have what we have now. Now one additional thing to add to this all is the fact that even though the FIA have released the issue 10 of this regulation cycle, it isn't necessarily the most up-to-date version that the teams are working off of, because the FIA, they tend to not give the general public the latest iteration of any technical rules, particularly with such a major one as this particular rule set of changes. And I would just pretty much be certain all of the teams are working with an even more sophisticated and complex set of 26 technical regs in their wind tunnels and CFD. And by the time we actually get to, say, Melbourne in 2026, the cars are going to be a considerable amount quicker than what we are potentially expecting them to be. And as we all see and know, when there's a new cycle of technical regs, what happens is that first year there is a dramatic level of learning and understanding and knowledge that is gained by all of the teams, and the level through which the lap times increase throughout that first and second year is huge. And I think we would be seeing that very thing playing out in 26. So I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year we're somewhere near to the beginning of this ground effect era in terms of the lap times that we're getting. And of course this is only going to be for the better and to the benefit of not only the Formula One teams but us, because as we all know, the teams went back to the FIA and asked them to make amendments through which to make the cars quicker. Anyway guys, I am going to wrap the video up here. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you have, do hit that subscribe button. I am getting very close to the 10,000 subscribers mark, which has been my aim for quite a while now. So yeah, do that. And I'll catch you all in another F1 video very soon. Have a very nice Christmas and enjoy your holidays as well. Catch you all when I'm here next.